Pale's journey to Lithara had been long and tiring. The ship had drifted through the quiet stretches of the alien sector for weeks, carrying diplomats and observers from Earth to the crystalline cities of the Litharan world. Kale was one of the younger diplomats, though his curiosity often exceeded his experience. He had trained for this moment for years, memorizing protocols, etiquette, and every detail of Litharan society that human scholars could uncover. Yet nothing had prepared him for the moment when he would first enter the Queen's palace. The palace itself seemed alive, its corridors shimmered with light that did not seem to come from any visible source, and walls appeared almost translucent, showing faint outlines of the floating gardens and streams outside. Kale walked carefully, trying to memorize every turn. His assigned room was said to be comfortable, but Kale's mind was preoccupied with one thought. He had to make a good impression. Diplomacy on Lithara was unlike anything on Earth. Mistakes were not punished with violence, but with social exclusion, a fate almost worse than death in Kale's mind. After hours of navigating the twisting passages, Kale found himself in front of a door that looked more like a grand window than an entrance. The surface reflected him faintly, almost as if it were a mirror. Without thinking too much, he pressed the panel and stepped inside, expecting the soft lighting and simple furniture of a diplomat's room. Instead, he found something entirely different. The room was vast, far larger than any guest room he had imagined. Soft, glowing lights floated near the ceiling, moving gently as if breathing. The floor was smooth and reflective, like liquid crystal, and a large bed in the center seemed to bloom like a flower, its petals forming soft folds of golden and silver fabric. Kale paused, blinking. This could not be his room. No diplomat received quarters like this. Before he could decide what to do, a voice spoke. It was soft but commanding, yet somehow comforting at the same time. "Human, you will sleep in my chamber tonight." He all froze. He turned slowly and saw her. Queen Sarai stood at the doorway, her figure elegant, her presence both formidable and gentle. Her eyes, luminous with a faint silver glow, studied him carefully. Kale had read about the Queen, of course. He knew she was wise, cunning, and revered across planets. But reading about her was nothing like standing in the same room. Kale's mind raced. This was a diplomatic nightmare in the making. Had he trespassed? Was this a breach of etiquette? Would the Queen see this as a challenge, a bold human misstep? He took a slow, deliberate bow. "Your Majesty," he said, keeping his voice steady. I must have entered the wrong chamber. I apologize." The Queen's lips curved in a subtle smile, almost amused. "Perhaps," she said. "Or perhaps you are exactly where you are meant to be." His curiosity flared, despite the tension. "I am honored, Your Majesty," he said, choosing his words with care. "I hope to serve as a respectful guest." "Respect is expected," she replied lightly, stepping further into the room. "But tonight, I wish to observe. Humans are rare here. I have not studied one up close in many cycles." Kael's heart thumped. Observation by the Queen herself could be terrifying, yet, strangely, it also felt like an opportunity. He decided to maintain calmness rather than panic. Humans had always excelled in unexpected situations. Quick thinking and empathy often opened doors where sheer logic failed. The Queen moved to a large window that overlooked the city. The sight left Kael breathless. Lithara was alive in a way Earth never was. Twin moons reflected off flowing rivers that seemed to float above the land. Bioluminescent plants swayed gently, casting colorful shadows across the crystal towers. The entire city glimmered as if it were made of liquid light. "Look," she said softly. "You will not see this from the streets or the markets. Few humans will ever see it from here." Kael nodded, letting his eyes drink in the view. He realized that this moment, this quiet observation, was itself a test. How would he react when confronted with beauty and complexity he could barely comprehend. Fear, awe, humility, arrogance, any reaction could reveal his nature. "I have traveled far," Kale said honestly. "I have studied your people and your world, but seeing it like this, it is beyond what words can describe." The Queen tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "And what do you see in humans, Kale? Tell me. Do you think your species is remarkable or merely clumsy and unpredictable?" Kyle paused. This was a delicate question. He did not want to sound boastful, but he also could not deny humanity's strengths. "I think humans are adaptable," he said slowly. "We are not the strongest or the most elegant, but we learn. We find ways to survive and create, even in the strangest conditions. And sometimes we surprise ourselves and others with insight we did not expect." The Queen's gaze softened slightly. Insight, that is rare. Many species focus on strength, precision, or longevity, but insight, that is harder to cultivate. Kael felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this was the start of a dialogue, a moment where humans could show value beyond brute force or rigid logic. "I hope to offer that," he said quietly, almost as a promise. A soft hum resonated through the room. Kale noticed that the floating lights had shifted, forming a path that led to a small platform by the window.
"Come," the Queen said. "Sit."
"Observe. Listen. Tonight, you will learn more about Lithara than any textbook can teach." Kail stepped forward carefully. He sat beside her, maintaining respectful distance, yet close enough to notice the subtleties, the faint warmth of her presence, the serene cadence of her speech, the way her eyes reflected the shimmering city. For hours they spoke. The Queen told stories of Lithara's history, of species who had tried to colonize or negotiate and failed because they misunderstood her people's values. Kale asked questions, listened intently, and occasionally shared human anecdotes, small, humorous observations about Earth, its cities, and its people. The Queen chuckled at some, nodded at others. He noticed she did not mock him, nor dismiss his curiosity. As the night deepened, Kaol realized that the chamber was more than a room. It was a lens through which he could understand Lithara itself. And the Queen, she was not just a ruler. She was a teacher, a guardian, and perhaps a test he had not yet fully grasped. A sudden shimmer crossed the horizon, a storm of sparkling energy that seemed to ripple through the floating cities. The lights of the chamber flickered momentarily, but the Queen's calm voice guided Kael. "Do not fear. These storms are natural, yet they are unpredictable. Observe, and you may learn." Kael studied the storm, noticing patterns in the movement, subtle shifts in the energy that even the chamber's technology had not anticipated. He mentioned them cautiously. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Interesting. You notice details others do not. Perhaps humans are not as limited as I thought." Kael felt a mix of pride and relief. Even in the Queen's presence, his human perspective mattered. He realized that humanity's value in the universe was not in strength, or beauty, or longevity, but in curiosity, empathy, and perception. As the night wore on, Kael prepared to rest, though sleep felt unnecessary in the presence of such wonder. The Queen indicated a space beside her observation platform where he could recline comfortably. "Rest," she said simply. "Tomorrow, your presence may influence events beyond this chamber. Tonight, you only watch and learn." Kael lay down, staring at the softly shifting lights above. Despite exhaustion, he felt awake in a way he had never experienced. He understood now that the mistake of entering this room had been intentional, an opportunity to reveal both his limits and his strengths. In that quiet moment, Kael realized something profound. Humans had always been underestimated by other species. They were small, fragile, chaotic in many ways, yet they had ingenuity, humor, resilience, and moral intuition. In the universe, where raw power often mattered most, these qualities could shine like stars in darkness. And on Lithara, under the gaze of the Queen, Cale would see just how far human insight could reach. As sleep finally drew him under, he could not help but feel a quiet thrill. The first night in the Queen's chamber was just the beginning. Tomorrow, Lithara would see a human not as a guest or curiosity, but as a participant in its story, and perhaps a small spark of inspiration for a species that often believed humans to be insignificant. For the first time since arriving, Cale felt entirely at home, though he was far from Earth. The palace walls shimmered gently around him, the storm outside hummed softly, and somewhere deep in the crystalline city, the Queen watched and considered the possibilities. The night was long, but the journey had only just begun. Cale woke slowly to a soft, glowing light that filled the chamber. The petals of the bed seemed to shimmer with faint colors, as if the room itself were breathing. Outside, the twin moons of Lithara hung low, reflecting gently on the floating rivers and crystalline towers. Cale stretched, realizing that he had slept better than he had in months, but there was no time to linger in comfort. The Queen had said tonight and tomorrow would reveal lessons humans rarely saw. The Queen herself was already standing near the window, looking out at the city below. She had a calm, quiet authority that made even the most ordinary movements seem deliberate. Kyle approached respectfully. "Good morning, Your Majesty," he said, trying not to sound too eager. "Good morning, Cale," she replied, turning her gaze toward him. "I trust your rest was sufficient. Today you will see Lithara in motion. Our world is alive, not just in beauty, but in purpose. Watch carefully, and you may understand what few humans do. How our society functions, how we thrive without conflict, and what it means to live in harmony with your environment." Kyle felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He had read reports and seen images, but no book or hologram could compare to standing here, in the Queen's presence, on a planet that seemed to glow with life itself. "I will observe carefully, Your Majesty," he said. "I hope to learn as much as possible." She led him through a series of corridors that seemed to shift subtly as they walked. Cale noticed that the walls reflected his movements, almost like they were recording him, but without any mechanical presence. The palace felt alive. Bioluminescent plants grew along the corridors, swaying gently, even without wind. The air was soft and warm, carrying a faint fragrance of flowers that Cale could not identify. They reached a chamber that opened outward into the city. Here, Cale could see Lithara in full motion. Floating platforms drifted across the sky, carrying citizens from one place to another. Streams of glowing water flowed in the air, defying gravity, while people moved gracefully along suspended pathways. The city was alive, but not chaotic. Every movement seemed purposeful, every action harmonious. "Notice the flow," the Queen said. "Litharans do not force their will upon the world. We adjust, adapt, and find balance. It is not weakness, it is understanding. Strength alone is meaningless if it disrupts harmony." Cale nodded, studying the floating citizens carefully. There was a rhythm to their motion that he could not yet fully grasp, yet he sensed its elegance. "It is beautiful," he said, "but also efficient. Every movement seems intentional." "Exactly," the Queen replied. "We do not waste energy. We do not compete unnecessarily. Conflict is rare because we seek understanding before action. Many species do not survive because they fail to see this." Kyle considered this. On Earth, human societies often relied on competition and conflict, yet here, a species thrived without it. How could humans, so used to struggle and chaos, learn from this? He decided to share a thought, carefully. "Humans, we often compete, yes, but we also adapt. We innovate when faced with challenges. Sometimes we succeed because we find new ways to work together, even in difficult circumstances." The Queen studied him for a long moment.
curious. Your species is unpredictable.
Some humans destroy, some humans create. Some fail constantly, yet survive. I have not seen such flexibility in other species. Perhaps that is why I am interested in you." Kael felt a mixture of pride and humility. "I hope I can show you the best of humanity," he said quietly. The queen inclined her head. "Perhaps you already are." They spent hours observing the city. Kael learned about the energy streams that powered the floating platforms, the soft communication networks that allowed citizens to coordinate without chaos, and the silent rituals that maintained balance between ecosystems and society. He asked questions, taking careful mental notes, not out of duty, but from genuine curiosity. The queen answered thoughtfully, revealing insights few outsiders would ever learn. At one point, a sudden ripple passed through the city. Platforms shook slightly and streams of floating water wavered. Kael's attention sharpened immediately. "Is this dangerous?" he asked. The queen shook her head. "No, this is a storm of energy. Natural, beautiful, unpredictable. It tests us, reminds us that even perfection has limits." Kael watched, fascinated. Unlike storms on Earth, which often brought destruction, this one seemed to play with the city like a dance partner. Citizens adjusted their paths, platforms shifted gracefully, and the light patterns changed in response. Kael noticed a subtle fluctuation in the energy stream that even the Queen's devices had not predicted. "There," he said softly, pointing. "That section seems slightly unstable." The Queen's gaze sharpened. "Interesting. Most observers would not notice." "Humans, you see details others overlook. Perhaps that is your value." Kael's heart quickened. He realized that his human perspective, his curiosity, attention to small details, willingness to question, was appreciated. It was not brute strength nor raw intelligence alone, but his perception and reasoning that mattered. The Queen motioned for him to follow her onto a floating platform that drifted gently above the city. "Come," she said. "Experience Lithara not just through observation, but through participation. Feel the balance of our world." Kael stepped onto the platform carefully. It moved smoothly, lifting them above the lower levels of the city. From this height, the rivers of floating water looked like glowing ribbons, weaving through the towers like threads in a tapestry. The citizens below moved like pieces in a grand design, each motion contributing to the greater harmony. "This is incredible," Kael whispered. "It feels alive." "Yes," the Queen said softly. "Lithera is alive because we are aware. Awareness is strength. Power without understanding is meaningless. You, Kael, have observed carefully. You have asked questions. You have noticed what others overlook. That is why you are here, not just as a guest, but as a participant."
Kael felt a mixture of awe and humility.
He realized that humans often underestimated themselves. On Earth, they relied on technology and force to overcome challenges. Here, insight and empathy were far more valuable. He began to understand why the Queen had chosen to place him in her chamber the night before. It was not a test of obedience or courage, but a test of perception, patience, and adaptability. The day passed as Kael continued to learn. He visited gardens that floated like clouds, each plant contributing to the energy and oxygen balance of the city. He watched children learn through play, observing how Litharans integrated education, observation, and creativity from the earliest cycles of life. He noted how conflict was nearly absent, replaced by guided negotiation and mutual respect. During a quiet moment, Kael asked the Queen, "Do you think humans could ever live like this?" "Without constant competition or conflict?" The Queen considered him carefully. "Perhaps. Some humans already strive for harmony in small ways. Yet your species is young, impulsive, often distracted by immediate needs. But potential exists. Humans are not as limited as other species believe. You have resilience, imagination, and insight. One day, perhaps your kind will understand balance as we do here. Kale smiled quietly, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known. To be a human among Lythara's citizens, to observe, learn, and perhaps share insight, it felt like the beginning of something greater than himself. As twilight approached, the twin moons reflected in the floating rivers, and the city below glimmered in shades of purple and gold. The queen led Kale back to the chamber, where the soft lights of the bed and petals awaited him. Yet he no longer saw it as a simple place to rest. It was a space of learning, reflection, and preparation. "Tonight," the queen said softly, "you will sleep again in my chamber. But rest well, Kale. Tomorrow your insight may guide decisions that influence not only Lythara, but the relationships between our world and yours. You are not just an observer, you are a participant." Kyle nodded, feeling both nervous and honored. He lay down, the glow of the petals soft around him, and reflected on the lessons of the day. Lythara was more than a city or a planet. It was a living system, a network of understanding and cooperation. And humans, though small and chaotic in comparison, had qualities that could contribute to this harmony. As sleep approached, Kale felt a quiet sense of anticipation. The night was calm, but tomorrow promised challenges and opportunities alike. He thought of the storm earlier, how beauty and danger could coexist, and realized that this was the essence of Lythara: awareness, adaptation, and harmony. And Kale, a human far from Earth, had begun to understand that insight and empathy could be more powerful than strength, that small acts of perception and understanding could ripple through worlds, shaping destinies. For the first time, he felt that humanity was not insignificant. In the presence of the Queen, in the heart of Lythara, he had found purpose and potential. The journey had only begun, but already he knew that humans could shine among the stars in ways no one had imagined. As the chamber lights dimmed and the night settled, Kale drifted into sleep once more, ready to face the lessons and revelations that awaited him with the coming dawn. Kale awoke to the soft hum of the chamber, the light petals of the bed glowing faintly, as though they were waiting for him. Outside, the twin moons of Lythara reflected on the floating city, painting the towers and rivers in soft silver and violet. Today was different. Today he would meet the Lytharan Council. The Queen had said he might influence decisions that shaped not only the city, but the relationship between Lythara and Earth. The weight of this responsibility made his chest tighten, but excitement surged through him as well. He followed the Queen through the winding corridors of the palace, the walls gently shimmering with movement. Kale was careful to match her pace, aware that every gesture, every expression, every question could be observed and analyzed. He had learned much in the past 2 nights, how the Lytharans valued patience, insight, and observation. Today would be the first true test of whether a human could participate meaningfully in their society. They arrived at a vast hall, larger than any Kale had ever seen. Crystalline pillars stretched toward the ceiling, and soft light refracted through the surfaces, scattering colors across the polished floor. At the far end, the Lytharan Council awaited, seated in a semicircle on platforms that seemed to float gently above the ground. Each council member's eyes shimmered faintly, reflecting the twin moons outside. Kale's pulse quickened. The Queen gestured for him to step forward. "Council," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "This human, Kale, has observed our city, our people, and our balance. I ask you to hear his perspective." There was a pause. A moment of silence in which Kale felt the weight of every gaze upon him. Lytharans were known for their logical minds, and their evaluations were rarely influenced by emotion. Kale took a deep breath, grounding himself. He could feel the same curiosity that had guided him through the palace now flowing into his words. "Honored members of the council," Kale began, his voice steady, I have observed Lithara for 2 nights, learning your ways, your systems, and your values. I have seen beauty, precision, and harmony that surpasses anything I have known on Earth. But I have also noticed subtle patterns that perhaps even your systems might overlook. I offer insight, not as a challenge, but as a perspective from an outside species, hoping it may complement your wisdom. A soft murmur passed among the council. Hale noticed a few members tilt their heads. Curious. Humans were unusual. Their emotions, humor, and reasoning were unpredictable, and yet sometimes extraordinarily insightful. Cale continued, carefully choosing his words. I observed how the floating platforms adjust during the energy storms, how the citizens respond to changes in the flow of water streams, and how even small fluctuations in the system can affect the city's harmony. But these patterns reminded me of Earth's own ecosystems, where small actions ripple across the environment in ways often unseen.
I believe that sometimes an outside eye can notice details that those immersed in a system for many cycles may miss.
The Queen's expression was unreadable, but Cale caught a faint smile. He pressed on. Humans are often clumsy, sometimes chaotic, but we have adaptability. We learn from mistakes. We find solutions when conventional methods fail. I believe that cooperation between our species could bring benefits beyond what either of us can achieve alone. Humans may offer innovation, perspective, and resilience in ways that complement your harmony and balance. The council remained silent for a long moment. Cale felt his chest tighten. In the human world, speaking confidently to authority was normal. But here, every word was weighed carefully. One mistake, one misunderstanding could end this opportunity. But he pressed on, guided by curiosity and respect. Consider, he added, how small adjustments in a system can prevent larger disruptions. Humans have learned to anticipate and respond to unexpected challenges in their own world. Perhaps this approach could serve as a bridge, helping our species understand one another and perhaps even support your society in subtle ways without disrupting your harmony. One of the council members, a tall being with faintly iridescent skin, leaned forward. You speak of observation and insight. Most outsiders do not understand our city, nor our systems. You, however, see patterns. How do you justify your confidence? Cale smiled lightly, feeling a human instinct for honesty guide him. I do not claim to understand all, nor to know more than you. I simply notice what my perspective allows me to see. My strength lies in noticing, questioning, and offering ideas without presuming to dictate. If it helps, I share. If it does not, I learn. There was a pause. The council members seemed to exchange subtle signals, their glowing eyes flickering with thought. Cale realized that his approach, humility combined with insight, was unusual. Litherans often expected precision and technical skill, but human qualities of empathy, curiosity, and moral reasoning were rare among the species they had encountered. Another council member, with translucent skin that shimmered like the city's rivers, spoke. You suggest a collaboration between species, yet you admit your limitations. How can we trust that your observations will be useful, rather than misleading? Trust is earned through action, he said. I do not ask for blind trust. I ask for a chance to show value through attention, careful thought, and respect. My species is imperfect, but our imperfections drive innovation. We often see solutions in unexpected places. The room remained quiet for a moment, and Cale wondered if he had spoken too long. Then, the Queen's voice broke the silence. Your words reflect your species' greatest strengths: curiosity, adaptability, and perception. They also show humility and respect. This is rare, even among Litherans. Cale, you have observed not only our systems but the essence of our society. That is why I brought you here. Your perspective is meaningful. A soft glow spread across the council chambers, a subtle signal of approval Cale had not fully understood but instinctively recognized. He felt a warmth of pride mixed with relief. Humans, despite their small stature and short lifespans, had qualities that mattered in ways strength alone could not measure. He realized that this was the moment he had trained for. Not to dominate, not to impress superficially, but to contribute meaningfully, through understanding. The Queen guided him to a nearby platform that floated gently above the main chamber.
"Observe further," she said. "Learn how your insights interact with our decisions."
Notice the consequences of suggestion versus assertion. Balance is delicate. Kaal nodded, understanding. He spent hours listening to discussions, observing how subtle changes in phrasing or perspective influenced the council's decisions. Occasionally, he offered careful observations, never imposing, always framing suggestions as questions. Slowly, the council began to incorporate his ideas, adjusting plans for city logistics and energy management with a precision Kaal had not expected. Throughout the day, Kaal's admiration for Lythara grew. The citizens below continued their routines. The floating platforms adjusted seamlessly to changes, and the rivers of light reflected harmony in motion. Yet he noticed the subtle ways his presence had impacted decisions. Small human perspectives, asking about alternatives, considering indirect consequences, noticing minor imbalances, had influenced outcomes without disrupting the larger system. By evening, Kaal felt both exhausted and exhilarated. The Queen led him back to the chamber, where the soft glow of the bed awaited. He had spent the day not only observing, but participating in ways he had never imagined possible. The council had seen that humans, though small and unpredictable, could offer insight and cooperation that mattered. The Queen spoke softly as Kaal prepared to rest. "You have done well. You have shown that humans, though young and chaotic in some ways, possess qualities we value: observation, curiosity, empathy, and adaptability. Your species is more than Earth reports suggest. You have influenced Lythara without attempting to control it." Kaal felt a quiet pride. He had expected tests of etiquette, protocol, and knowledge. Instead, he had learned that the true strength of a human lay in subtlety, in noticing, asking, and offering perspectives without arrogance. He realized that his journey had only begun, but he had already proven that humans could shine among the stars. As he lay down that night, the petals glowing softly around him, Kaal reflected on the day's lessons. Insight, empathy, and perception were powerful tools. They allowed humans to participate meaningfully, even in societies far more advanced than their own. He understood that this was the essence of humanity's place in the cosmos, not to dominate, but to observe, adapt, and contribute. He felt a quiet excitement for the days ahead. Tomorrow he would learn even more about Lythara's culture, and perhaps see firsthand the ways humans could impact the wider universe. The council had accepted his presence, but more importantly, they had begun to recognize human potential. As Kaal drifted into sleep, he thought of the Queen's words and the lessons of the floating city. Lythara was a world of balance, harmony, and awareness. Humans, though imperfect, could offer insight, creativity, and empathy that mattered in ways strength alone could never achieve. And in this moment, Kaal felt the weight and wonder of being a human among the stars. The chamber hummed gently, light softening as night deepened. Outside, the city glimmered with life, reflecting in the twin moons and the floating rivers. Kaal closed his eyes, ready to face the challenges and discoveries that awaited him with the coming dawn. He was not merely a guest, he was a participant, a bridge between worlds, and a living example of what humanity could offer the cosmos. Kaal awoke to a soft golden light filtering through the crystalline walls of the chamber. The petals of the bed shimmered faintly, reflecting the glow of the twin moons outside. Last night had been remarkable. He had observed the city, participated in council discussions, and learned more about Lythara than any human scholar could hope to know. Today, the Queen had promised, he would see Lythara from a perspective that no outsider had ever experienced. He followed the queen through the corridors, each step quiet on the polished floor. The palace itself seemed alive, responding subtly to their movements. The soft hum of energy filled the air, a sound that Kale had come to associate with awareness, balance, and life itself. The queen did not speak much, but her presence was commanding, her gaze steady, and Kale felt a mixture of anticipation and calm. They arrived at a wide observation platform suspended high above the city. Unlike the platforms below, which drifted with gentle, predictable patterns, this one hovered steadily, giving a panoramic view of Lithara. Kale's breath caught as he looked out over the city. The rivers of floating water curved gracefully between crystalline towers. Citizens moved with purpose, yet with a fluidity that seemed almost artistic. Lights shimmered across buildings, reflecting in the flowing water, creating a scene that seemed both alive and eternal. The queen gestured for him to step closer to the edge. "Today you will see Lithara as few have," she said softly. "You will see not only the city, but the principles that guide our people. Insight and observation are valued above force or speed. Humans, you have shown, have much to offer in this regard." Kyle felt both pride and humility. He had never imagined that humans, so often underestimated in the galaxy, could be appreciated for qualities other than strength or intelligence. He realized that Lithara valued patience, empathy, and careful observation, and in these traits, humans could shine. As they observed, Kale noticed the subtle interactions of the citizens below. Small adjustments to the floating platforms ensured that the energy streams remained stable. Water currents shifted to maintain balance in the gardens. Children played in ways that taught them coordination, awareness, and cooperation. Every movement seemed purposeful, yet effortless. He felt a growing sense of wonder at how a society could operate in perfect harmony without conflict. The queen spoke quietly beside him. "Do you understand now why I chose you?" she asked. "You do not rely solely on rules or strength. You notice. You adapt. You think in ways that complement our society. Your presence here has been observed, studied, and valued." Kyle's heart beat faster. "I did not realize I could matter in this way," he said softly. "I thought humans might be too small, too unpredictable to contribute meaningfully." The queen smiled faintly. "Humans are often underestimated. Your species thrives not despite chaos, but because you adapt to it. You observe, learn, and improvise. That is why your perspective is important. Strength alone does not guide a civilization. Understanding does." They spent hours on the platform observing the city and discussing the subtleties of Litharan life. Kale asked questions, offered insights, and compared Lithara's systems to those of Earth. The queen listened attentively, occasionally nodding, sometimes interjecting with a subtle correction or additional detail. Cattle noticed that his observations influenced her reflections. Small human perspectives, quiet and thoughtful, were shaping even the thoughts of a being as powerful and intelligent as the queen. As the day progressed, the queen led Cattle to a ceremonial hall that opened into the sky. Floating lanterns drifted like soft stars, illuminating the chamber with gentle light. Kale realized this would be a formal recognition of his contributions, a rare honor. The council had prepared, and citizens gathered silently in the distance, watching from their floating platforms. The queen addressed Kale first. "Hail, human, you have observed our city, our people, and our ways. You have participated in council discussions, offered insights, and shown patience, empathy, and perception beyond expectation. Today you are not only a guest, you are recognized as a bridge between our worlds, a participant in the harmony we have cultivated for cycles beyond counting." Kale felt his chest tighten. He had expected protocol, perhaps praise, but not this magnitude of acknowledgement. He bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I am humbled. I only wish to learn and contribute. in whatever small way a human can. To be recognized in this way is beyond anything I imagined. The Queen's gaze softened. Recognition is not given lightly. Humans, though short-lived compared to Litherans, have potential. You have shown insight, empathy, and creativity. These are qualities that matter, and qualities that can shape worlds. Kael looked around the chamber, at the floating lights, the shimmering walls, the distant citizens observing silently, and realized the significance of this moment. His species, often dismissed or underestimated, had earned respect not through force, but through thought, observation, and understanding. Humans had value in the galaxy beyond mere survival or technology. They could influence, guide, and inspire. The Queen gestured toward the sky, and Kael followed her gaze. A gentle wind, carrying soft particles of light, swirled around them. Floating gardens, rivers of water, and platforms drifted below, illuminated by the twin moons. Kael could feel the harmony of the world vibrating in the air, a tangible presence that resonated with patience, balance, and care. "You have seen Lithara from above," the Queen said. "Now consider the significance." Every choice, every observation, every suggestion contributes to our balance. Your presence here has altered patterns subtly, yet meaningfully. Even humans, small and unpredictable, can create ripples that shape worlds. Kael's thoughts raced. The recognition he had received was not personal alone. It was symbolic. Humans, though fragile and chaotic in some ways, had qualities that mattered to advanced civilizations. Insight, empathy, adaptability, and moral intuition were gifts that could influence decisions, guide systems, and maintain harmony. For the first time, Kael felt the full weight of humanity's potential. The ceremony continued as the Queen presented Kael with a symbol of honor, a simple crystal pendant that glowed faintly with the city's energy. "This is not a gift," she said. "It is a reminder. Humans who observe, understand, and contribute are valuable in ways beyond strength or longevity. Wear it as a symbol of potential, responsibility, and connection." Kael accepted the pendant with both hands, bowing deeply.
"I am honored, Your Majesty,"
he said. "I will carry this responsibility with care and strive to represent humanity faithfully." The Queen inclined her head. "I believe you will, Kael." "Your species has potential yet to be realized. Perhaps one day humans will influence not only their own world, but worlds across the stars. Your insight, courage, and curiosity are proof of what can be achieved without force, without dominance, but through understanding." Kael spent the rest of the day exploring Lithara alongside the Queen, observing citizens, gardens, and platforms with new eyes. He realized that his human traits, curiosity, empathy, adaptability, had been his greatest assets. In a society built on harmony, balance, and awareness, humans could participate meaningfully by offering insight, asking questions, and noticing what others might overlook. As the twin moons reflected on the floating rivers that night, Kael and the Queen returned to the chamber. The petals of the bed glowed softly, but Kael did not immediately lie down. Instead, he stood by the window, gazing out at the city he had come to understand, even if only partially. The citizens moved with grace and purpose, unaware of the human who had quietly influenced their council and gained recognition from the Queen herself. "You have done well," the Queen said, standing beside him. "Tonight, rest. Tomorrow, you may continue your observations and perhaps return to your world with knowledge that few humans will ever possess. But remember, your value does not come from strength or power. It comes from insight, patience, and empathy. These are the qualities that define your species in ways the galaxy is only beginning to understand." Kael felt a quiet pride mixed with humility. Humanity had always been underestimated. Small, fragile, chaotic, yet full of potential. These traits, when applied with care and understanding, could influence worlds. He had been given a rare opportunity to demonstrate that, and he had done so not through dominance, but through observation, thoughtfulness, and respect. As he finally lay down on the soft petals, Kael reflected on his journey. Lythara had revealed not only the beauty and complexity of an alien world, but the power of being human. Insight, empathy, and adaptability were not weaknesses. They were tools for understanding, cooperation, and influence. He closed his eyes, feeling the gentle hum of the chamber, the soft glow of the petals, and the calm presence of the queen nearby. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, but tonight, Kael allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Humanity had been recognized. Humanity had shone. And in the quiet, shimmering world of Lythara, a human diplomat understood that sometimes the smallest ripple could shape the greatest waves. Sleep came gently, carrying Kael into dreams of floating rivers, glowing towers, and the endless possibilities of a universe where humans, though small and unpredictable, could leave a lasting mark through understanding, curiosity, and insight.